Greetings everyone, Eric's UK here, back with another video. Continuing the recent trend, I'm going to stick to the old World of Darkness games. Today talking about Mage the Ascension. I'm not going to go into the system because you've seen my other vid on Vampire the Masquerade. It's basically the same system. So instead I'm just going to sort of like talk about the game itself. Mage was a really odd one for me because it's like Werewolf. It's supposed to fit into the general World of Darkness, but it doesn't quite. You see, characters in Mage are basically playing individuals that have the ability to shape reality, and they have, instead of disciplines or abilities like that, you have a series of, I can't think what they were called right now, but you had a series of, I don't know, let's call them spheres of power. And they would have been things like time, transformation, things like that. I think there was about 9 or 10 of them. 9, I think. Was it 8? So anyway, and you had dots in those, and each dot was basically a dice. And the higher your dots, the better you could do things with it. So if you had a dot in, let's say time, I can't remember, I'm sure time was one of them. I can't remember the actual gubbins. Let's say you had something like that, then you could do something to slow time slightly. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a use for it, but you could do something like that. I think there was another sort of one where a default thing was sort of like lucky. So if someone shot you, it would hit that old whiskey flask that you keep inside your coat pocket instead of hitting you. You could alter probability, alter reality. The problem was that normal people, the mundanes, have a very rigid idea of what makes reality. So you're kind of fighting their belief in the universe status quo. Never really sure how this worked in principle, because normal people don't believe in vampires, werewolves, wizards, ghosts, well, maybe ghosts, fae and all this sort of stuff, and yet they quite happily exist alongside humans, hidden away from them. But you try and work a little bit of magic and suddenly, oh no. And you basically had two groups. There's always like a rival group in these games. So you played, I think they're called the Traditions. So they were the ones trying to keep magic alive in the world. And they were opposed by a group calling themselves a Technocracy, who used their magic through machines, through computers. They were kind of a 21st century wizard, techno wizards, or that sort of thing. And the more they were getting stuff done, the more magic was fading from everywhere else, and the Traditions were losing out, that sort of thing. Pardon me. It was a really odd game, and it never really, like Werewolf, it didn't really fit where they had built this world under Vampire the Masquerade. They've got this gothic punk world, and this never really fitted it either. Only a couple of games actually did in my mind. And I only attempted to run one chronicle under it, or campaign. And we got probably about 2, maybe 3 sessions in, and myself and the players involved all actually jacked it in unanimously. We actually felt that it didn't really work, and it wasn't grabbing us. And I'm sure there are lots of people out there who quite happily played Mage the Ascension, had a really good time with it, but we just couldn't get our heads around it. And once you got powerful enough, there were problems. I remember people on the White Wolf forums actually working out what spheres you needed and at what levels to basically turn vampires into armchairs. And when you've got a game that lets you do stupid things like that, I think they've kind of, not thought it through, or just, it just didn't really work. They did another one for the New World of Darkness. I can't remember the name of it. Mage the Awakening or something like that. And I did briefly play a Chronicle in that. The guy that was running it, if you saw my video on games I've played, RuneQuest, you know that I played a campaign back in the late 00s. And one of the guys that was running that ran this new World of Darkness version of Mage. And it was sort of like set in the early 1800s for some reason. And we were all... it was all like... It was all... it's hard to describe. It basically got an area that was like 3 towns in England. And we were various members of the... I can't say ruling because that's not right. I played a priest trying to come to terms with his faith and the fact that he could work magic. Someone else was sort of like a landowner, and someone else was something else. And it still didn't work. I mean, all right, I didn't quite get into the... Not my period of history, I suppose. But I still didn't quite get into it through that. And it was basically the same thing. Just probably not as well put together. White Wolf put out a lot of these games, and the only ones, and I mean, I'm going to go through them, but the only ones that ever sort of worked for me were Vampire the Masquerade, first and foremost, to an extent Wraith the Oblivion, and a very, very tiny percent Hunter the Reckoning. Otherwise, their games were really weird. But it's not a game I would ever want to go back to. I never, as I say, I never particularly enjoyed that. But as with anything, it was a good experience. We were big into the World of Darkness stuff at the time, say Vampire primarily. But you some games you find work really well, and some games you find don't. And for us, Mage the Ascension just didn't do it. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. If you played Mage the Ascension, it'd be interesting to see what you thought of it, how you handled it, because that's one of the things that interests me most about this. Or if you played the newer version for the new World of Darkness, tell me about your Chronicles and how you work that game around. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Take care and good gaming.